Is it clear? Okay. Guys, I'll just give a quick introduction and then start off. So I'm alumnus from IIT Madras. My interest is in building not only software products but products which have some kind of mechanical electronics element to it along with software. So with that context only I'll be talking to you guys. Let me just quickly start off. And here what will help make the session more useful is anywhere you have any question, feel free to stop me over there itself. What we will cover in today's session, idea is to give you guys just a broad feel of different aspects till we get into the proof of concept. So what we will talk about is our idea, how do we verify our idea, what could be a mock-up verification, then proof of concept, what are the key aspects what we look at when we are developing the proof of concept. I work a lot with startups very young who are more about engineers developing a startup. So with that context, whatever are the common gaps I see, I've put them together. And last, what next? So guys, this is like the basic essence of any business. We are looking at something which is desirable. Desirable meaning something what customers really want. Feasible. Feasible is something what engineers can develop. And viable where there is a business angle to it. You need something where all three are met. The better it meets, the better is the startup. So you should be really interested in the common area of that. There's no unique answer. Then in terms of desirability, you need a problem where it's really bothering the users. For example, the earlier product what she was talking about, the wheelchair scooter. Right now many people are in their homes only, not able to go out. So when they are able to go out, it's a big thing in their life. So you need a problem like that so that customers run after you rather than you running after the customers. You want the problem to have enough business size, otherwise it will be a very small business. You need to define the problem and you should not complicate the problem. It should be as simple as possible. Then you want a solution which is some way beneficial than the other solutions in the market. That's where a good example is the iPhone. Earlier when it came out in 2007, before that there was a very different way of interacting with the phone. But with iPhone the thing changed and it made a lot easier to interact with it in many different ways. Then in terms of the business case, a good example is I think Toyota makes 10 or 100 times more cars than Tesla, but Tesla makes 10 times more profit than Toyota. So you need a good business case at the end of it. Once business is there, then you can develop the next set of products. So as founders, once you start off the work, you will have some idea. And because you are very interested in the idea, you are also going to be very biased about the idea. You will feel that the problem is very important, very exciting. So let me just show you an image and let me ask, what do you see? What do you see? Does anyone see an old lady? How many of you see an old lady? Can you raise your hand? How many of you see a young lady? Can you raise your hand? How many of you see both? So if you closely observe, this is like the chin, this is the nose of an old lady. At the same time, this is like the eyelid, nose of a young lady. The point is both are true, but because you are so biased, you will be so attached to the idea, it's inbound that you will be biased with the idea. So that's where you need to, once you have the idea, you need to talk to a lot of users, external stakeholders, mentors, get a good feel on what others think about the idea. So this is just a video. Now let's say we have validated the idea, that it looks like the idea is something worth pursuing. So the next step would be to build something very quickly, very simple, so that we are able to verify that customers really like the product. So this is one funny example. Can you play the video? except this part. So the idea over here is we don't want to build a lot of technology at the start. I am also an engineer, so there is always a lot of instinct what we have that we want to build something together which is satisfying an engineer. But the problem is that that is not necessary to satisfy a customer. So that's where you have to really disintegrate both. And the idea is what is the simplest thing you can build so that you are able to verify that your consumers are very happy with the product. So that's one example. So advantage of doing something simple like this is your time for development will be very low. You will be very flexible. If you want to do any change, it comes down. There is very low cost which is involved. Most importantly, you will be able to verify that your customers are really liking your product or not. So let's say we've verified mockup is also good, customers have shown interest. Now what next? So this is where I'll be talking about developing proof of concept. Proof of concept, the idea is that it is something which is still not the full scale product. It's not about mass manufacturing, but something which we can build so that we are able to verify a lot of things, technology, consumers, so on. So first thing, what I try to do with the proof of concept is each one of us has a different idea always of the device. So you want the whole team to come on the same page. So we make something a design brief where we talk about the objective first. In some cases, the objective would be to just have a bench setup so that people are able to see the technology. Something which is more complicated, let's say for a healthcare product, where you just want to first prove that all the elements are working correctly. So that would be one. Whereas in some areas, the objective is, like for the wheelchair, what we were developing, the objective was to go and get orders from the customer. So we had built something quickly so that we try to sell it to the customer. After the objective, we define what is the deliverable. When do we know that the POC is successful? At the start, if we know that, it's more easier to complete. Then one of the common challenges is keeping project on time, because most of the time it will be resources which are more like freshers, the first time team is developing a product. So what is the mechanism you use so that the time is on track? Then priorities more like, I'll explain in the next slide. Then budget, what's the team, what's the resource. A lot of these details are defined at the start so that the whole team is aligned towards the development. Also, any of you guys have any doubt, feel free to stop. Sure.
You are little more speedy and
right.
More information on this.
Sure. So
you are telling when we put our proof of concept,
right.
should we consider all these things, or because most of the time when we present the proof
right.
of concept would be what are the prior things we have done, and these are deliverables, timeline, budget, everything will come after that.
Right.
So should we consider everything together as a package or something?
Correct.
Yeah.
So the objective always, before doing anything, I like to plan a lot. So before we tell this is what we are going to build, one of the things is many times all of us are used to just jumping on the field and trying to develop it directly. Whereas here the objective is to take few steps back, first define everything, why you are developing it. So this is like what I do is this is like a document, what I make with all these questions answered. So that the complete team is reading the document and everyone has a similar idea of what we are trying to develop. I'll give a simple example. Let's say electromechanical device is being developed. There is a common thing where it could be solved mechanically also, electronically also. Now both the engineers would be having a disagreement on what is more important. So that's where this document, once everyone has agreed initially, makes it easier to solve any issue. So that the complete team is aligned towards the development. Does that answer the question?
Okay.
Broadly. So what we try to do to keep the project on time track is that we have, there are different methodologies you would hear, waterfall, agile, but broad idea is you want a feedback mechanism. You plan for the week, at the end of the week you won't be on track, but at least you sit back and see what was planned and what was done, so that you are able to plan next week better. So that is a closed mechanism where it helps to keep the project on time track. And then over here there will always be a difference in terms of, let's say I am designing a car. I want it to develop fast, superior quality, low cost, great aesthetics, great function. Now always you can't get all the parameters. It's always going to be a balance where some parameters are going to be more important than the other. So that's where there is always a difference of opinion in the team. So you want to define everything clearly so that there is no disagreement. Then we want, most importantly, to keep the project on time track, because there is a lot of funding constraint. So once we start the development, so this is where I have just put together all the common challenges what I have seen across startups. Even me, when I was first developing the device, as I had to design the wheelchair, the first thing I did was sit on SolidWorks and start modeling it. So that is, now when I look back, that's a poor approach. Initially we want to spend a lot of time with the customer, get a lot of insights, what has to be developed, what is the specification, what is the requirement. Only then later on is what we want to get into the development. So this is a nice quote by Einstein where he talks about spending majority of the time on understanding the problem. Once the problem is very well understood, it's easy to solve the problem. This is again I've heard both the philosophies, where when you see interviews of people from Apple, where this quote is also there, where they say that customers don't know what they want. So when Henry Ford had earlier told, when he was asking people, people would tell him they want faster horses. So customers will not really know how to solve the problem unless you give it to them. So that is one side of the approach, where again even this touch phone, customers can't tell you that they want a touch phone. It is beyond their scope of understanding of technology. Whereas there are also a lot of people who will tell you have to spend a lot of time with the customer, get insights, then develop. Now what I feel is that both the approaches are true. You need to find a balance between both. Now if you don't understand your customers and you develop, more or less it's more likely that you might not really develop something which customers really like. Whereas at the same time you should not trust everything customer says. If a customer is saying they want faster horses, the meaning I take from that is they want to reach from place A to place B in a quicker time. Now your objective is to solve this problem, not to make a faster horse. So that is one common perspective what is there. So this is also a video. Can you play that?
And one of the things I've always found is that you've got to start with the customer experience and work backwards to the technology. You can't start with the technology and try to figure out where you're going to try to sell it. And I've made this mistake probably more than anybody else in this room. And I've got the scar tissue to prove it. And I know that it's the case. And as we have tried to come up with a strategy and a vision for Apple, it started with what incredible benefits can we give to the customer? Where can we take the customer? Not starting with, let's sit down with the engineers and figure out what awesome technology we have, and then how are we going to market that. And I think that's the right path to take.
So this is a common challenge again. What happens is, especially students from engineering institute, because as a project you will have something technical at hand, you will start forcing that onto the customers. Whereas this is a question, but more or less I am more in sync with this approach, where you really want to understand what the customer wants, then develop the technology for that. Don't take your technology and force it on the customers. More or less it's more difficult to make that case work. Then again, as I talk to a lot of startups, so even when we are talking about product development, there's a lot of things what they want to do, even in the proof of concept. Whereas the essence is what is the minimum thing what we want to do. This again is a very good example. So this is Picasso's bull, if anyone knows. Picasso is a famous painter. The objective given to him is, in minimum number of lines, he is supposed to communicate that it's a bull, where he starts off with something like this and then ends with. So the question always I am asking while developing any product is, what is this? What is the minimum version what we need to develop so that it still meets the purpose? Then next, so let's say we finish this also, where our proof of concept has worked well. The objective when I say worked well is that customers are really interested. They are calling us for the order, and that is my metric to tell that proof of concept is working very well. After that is done, then we will get into MVP, when Professor Nair is going to cover a lot of points on this area, where we want to talk about cost optimization, production process, what's the volume, what's the cost, the cash flow, process FMEA, design FMEA, a whole bunch of things, so that we convert a good concept to a good product. So these are the points I wanted to cover, guys. So any questions you have, now we can dive in.
That is a problem we generally face. Like we will ask something, and when we ask that, yes, we need it, or something like that. But how to get that unbiased feedback from the customers?
So one of this is generally a skill in life, that how do you listen, how do you not react. So that is one thing what is definitely required. But what I feel is, once you are so interested in the problem, you will try to grasp on every small detail with the customer. Like for example, I'll give, so there was one wheelchair user was talking to me. So what that person did is, that person removed the armrest and moved it back. The learning from that is, the person does not want any of the wheelchair to be seen. The person wants only the person to be shown. With that idea, then we started developing a wheelchair which is very minimum, so that only the user is visible. So the key essence over there is just being in a meditative zone, where you want to listen.
So maybe it comes with experience and practice.
Experience for sure, but also it's this skill of, even without experience also someone could do, but it's being more about just listening well. Yeah, please.
So just tell me the story which I read about the Tata Motors, right? Now there is a car called Sumo, right? Okay, so that guy what he used to do, I forgot his name, but his initials is Sumo. Okay, SUMO, so I forgot the name. So what guy, that I'm just fortify his point. That guy used to leave one day from the office, okay, and didn't take the lunch with the team. And everyone thought that, okay, this is a big guy. This is a big guy, so he wants to go to the, meet the customers in the 5-star hotels and having lunch out there. So once they recce on him and find out that that guy was talking to the drivers in a dhaba and taking the feedback from them. Okay, that is the one thing. Second thing, he identified that, there is a 3-wheeler which used to do a goods carrier. They said whenever they want to go to their in-laws' place, they park that vehicle far away from that place, because they want to show that they are a goods carrier. That's why they come up with a Chota Hathi and all this thing into the picture. So listen to your customers, anonymous and all those things. Don't take the market research as such, because Pulsar is one of the great examples. You know about that, right?
No.
Okay, Pulsar is the one which Bajaj, what is his name? Vivek, Rahul Bajaj's son. What is his name?
Rajiv Bajaj.
Rajiv Bajaj. He wants to do a Pulsar thing, right? Then they hire the McKinsey for it, and McKinsey said, you don't need a Pulsar.
Right.
Then he, he just rebelled from his father and opened the factory. Now Pulsar story, everyone knows about it, right? Second thing is, the biggest example is Eicher Motors Bullet, right? So talk to your end users and customers. Okay, talk to them anonymously that you are not belong to that part, just as a third person. I guess it helps.
Thanks, sir. Hey, no problem. It's a good example.
Sir, hello. Sir, what is the minimum criteria so we need to define those things? So you said that proof of concept and that minimum viable product. How we differentiate these two things? If we design something or making something, okay, how we conclude that we reached this stage or what stage we are here? How we differentiate? What are the is there any criteria to
Right.
define these things?
Sure. See, broadly, I feel each, let's say it's a technology startup, it would have a different criteria. If someone is building like a wheelchair or a B2C, will be a different criteria. But broadly, first thing, let me just take some examples and make the case. If it's a technology company where, let's say someone is developing a stent, is what I read. So if you're developing something like that, you need to do a lot of background work to first prove that that concept works is safe before you do anything on the humans. So that becomes like my first objective to develop that. But when I'm developing a wheelchair, I'm very sure that there is nothing I need to prove to anyone. Everyone knows, or a scooter, it works. My objective would be to develop something what the customers will take an order for. So that way, whatever is my objective, based on that, I will define the criteria. It's not the same criteria for every startup.
Yes, sir. Sir, you designed the wheelchair. At that time also, I am asking at what stage you said that this is the proof of concept, this is the minimum viable product, this is the final product.
Right.
That I want to.
Sure. So even there, our first objective was we knew customers had a problem. What we wanted to do is we wanted to keep a wheelchair in front of them so that they pre-order the wheelchair. Wheelchair is not fully ready, but they are able to pay us a few thousand rupees token amount so that there is a confidence what the customer has and we have. So that was the objective. So we built something very quickly so that we keep it in front of the user and take this order. For us, that was the objective. Whereas let's say I am a drone company and doing surveillance. So my objective would be to first get this thing quickly where my person is operating it, but it's able to go to some customer place and do that work, where I'll give the report to the customer and try to get some orders from them.
Yes, sir. Actually, we are from one Ocean Wave Energy creating company.
Right.
So I'm asking that okay, in that also, what are how we demarcate that we have reached this zone, this zone.
So let's break it down. This case, you are generating energy from waves, right?
Yeah.
Broadly. So first thing what I look at is a bench setup, where I am able to prove that using the wave energy, wave technology, it won't be the large scale full unit, but it will be something small which is able to give me a lot of engineering parameters on how much power, energy, efficiency, whole bunch of parameters like that. With that, I can get a lot of people excited that a potential of this thing is there. Second level, once I get things excited, second I would go for developing something where I can deploy it. Where again I won't say deploy, I want to test it on the field. So I have to build something enough scale.
How do you define that? If you tested in the field,
Right.
how do you define that whether that is a prototype or a proof of concept, or it is in between?
So all these wordings also, I don't think they are so rigid, so to say. The idea is that minimum viable product is something where
Somebody is asking us.
right.
Like we made a small prototype. We included the small elements also.
Right.
We designed and we tested in a small space, like 10 meter or 20 meter tank only.
Correct.
Actually, it doesn't meet the exact standards.
Correct.
Okay, we created the waves and it's producing and the turbine sensing nicely towards the waves. Actually, that's the first turbine which is directly exposing.
Sure. That definitely I'll tell is a proof of concept.
Yes, sir, but we made a small
Correct.
thing in a small
It's around a 700 kg weight payload,
Right.
and it's a 10 meter wavelength,
Right.
3 meter depth tank. We made it,
Correct.
and then it took 2-3 years to build only that proof of concept. If suppose you call it that as a prototype or proof of concept.
Correct. So let's use both the words are similar in this context.
Yes,
Prototype
yes.
proof of concept is similar. Minimum viable product is something what I can sell.
Sell.
Can you sell this one? So that will be the
Yeah,
difference.
right, yeah.
Where it is like Picasso's bull. I'm not developing all the features.
Okay.
But it is something I can keep in front of a customer and I can get order.
Right.
If you are applying for some grant or something like
something
that, at that time they will ask you what is your stage.
Stage.
Correct.
So at that time you could continue.
Sure, sure. Yeah, maybe just one last question and then I'll hand over to Professor Nair.
Prototype and even until MVP, no, the same
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
This would be the basic, no.
Correct. The objective of something like this is, as you get into any engineering development, you will see that once there is a team of about 5 to 10 people, any discussion, many times there's a lot of disagreement which happens.
Yeah. Why I'm asking is when we are doing some agile project management, this will
Right.
go up to even MVP, I think.
Yes. All
The same approach.
Yes, yes. The objective is these are all just approaches to streamline the development so that there is not much difference in the team and the whole team is aligned towards one goal.
Okay.
That is the broad objective. And it's also not exhaustive. There are a lot more questions what we ask. But I've just given a feel that these are the important questions what the whole team needs to be aligned towards.
Okay.